Hey fam, how are you guys doing this afternoon? I am just wanting to come on here for a brief time. This morning I said it was going to be brief and it went on for an hour and 15 minutes. I really just have a few things I want to discuss with you guys. So let me just say in my opening disclosure that everything I say is simply my opinion. It is for the sake of conversation, hoping to open up a discussion, hoping to be educational and made specifically for YouTube, which is an entertainment platform. So, hey, Rhonda R., how are you? So, I got on here this afternoon just wanting to touch base on a couple of quick items. One of those is the front door being open at the home where the horrible tragedy took place of the Moscow Four. Hey, Susan, nice to see you here. Thank you for coming, you guys. So, the front door being open on the house is so mind-boggling. It has not been been discussed in a while, been discussioned. I watched the whole commercial because I like your channel. Oh, you're so sweet, Rhonda. Thank you. Hi again, Alistair Grant says. So yeah, we haven't discussed. I haven't heard anybody discuss it in a while. And thank you to the commenter who kind of ended our last conversation with, "Why was the front door open?" Yes, Rhonda, I see that you say I like to hit the skip button, which I do too. So thank you for watching the commercials. As you guys know, I am monetized now. And if you watch the commercials of the channels that you like, then the content creators, I guess, get paid more. I don't know. I don't know how all this stuff works. I'm not doing this for the money. Money is usually not a bad thing. I was going to say never a bad thing, but never say never, right? I do not do this for any reason other than my insatiable quest and thirst for justice, honestly. If I happen to make money while I'm doing it, that's fabulous. And if I don't, I'm good with that too. Um, it is nice to know that people appreciate what I'm doing. That's really what's most important to me. Hey, Caleb, how are you? So, why was that front door to the house open and who opened it and how long had it been opened? That is such a, like the $64,000 question, is it not? And why has it not been discussed in so long? Why? So I am just super curious if anybody has any ideas of how long it was opened, why it was opened. I honestly have no idea. I thought that I had an idea a while back. I thought perhaps the killer had left it open to get attention so that things would be seen. I had thought that maybe one of the roommates left it open when they went in or out the following morning. I don't know. Let's see. I just watched your last live weekend catch up. Very cool. Rhonda R says, "You look really nice today." I'm not saying you don't ever look nice. I think your blouse is a good color for you. Well, thank you. It's a very bright, like magenta, and it's clinging. So that's the only problem that I have with it. But yeah, it's new. Thank you. Anyway, so let's talk about some of these things. Oh, GOP Nick in the earlier discussion said that there might be two Elantras, that maybe the criminal defendant drove an Elantra, as did potentially the man who was killed by the SWAT team. I don't know, but that's fascinating. Have you guys heard that? Two Elantras in this case? I know there were 22,000 Elantras, but I had not heard that the man who was shot by the SWAT team on December 14th, I had not heard that he was driving a white Elantra until that comment from GOP Nick this morning. And I wanted to look into it, but I haven't had a chance yet. If anybody knows, that would be very helpful. Um, so, oh my goodness, I watched Dr. Phil on the Idaho 4. Yeah, I love Dr. Phil. I really do. Um, and so there were some major news shows that have been covering the Idaho 4, Dateline, 48 Hours, and 2020. And I caught the 48 Hours. I was not impressed. The Dateline looks like it's over 2 hours long. And then 2020, I'm not sure. It's sometimes so hard to find stuff on YouTube. In my opinion, the door was open to air out the house from the rancid odor that would have permeated the home due to the ventilation system. Yeah, I've heard people discussing that over the weekend. Um, yeah, the smell would have been nauseating. Absolutely, absolutely nauseating. Mind-boggling, isn't it? Rhonda says, I did not care for the 48 hours either. Hey, Sifa. So I did get a chance to go look at your last video of the document about all the documentation. That was a lot of information to try to fit in, kind of across the boards, state to state, how things are handled. But there was one thing that really hit me, and I wrote it down. Oh, New Jersey. New Jersey had this quote about that they will release the records to, and I wrote this down so it's in quotes, people with a proper interest in such records, end quote. I thought that was kind of hilarious. People with a proper interest in such records. So I would imagine that then they can use that to their discretion, whether they deem that you have a proper interest or maybe an improper interest. I just thought that was really funny. So, so yeah, thank you for posting that. That was a huge help and just a lot of information to have in one video. My goodness. Um, and Caleb Lee says hello to everybody. And is the mod here? I didn't see the mod being here. Okay, that's fine. But then Caleb Lee said hello. But so you guys, all of this is just so mind-boggling, is it not? Like how any of us keep up is beyond me. I'm amazed that when you guys are saying stuff in the chat that I usually know what you're talking about. Like it just kind of cracks me up because sometimes I don't think that I do, but then I realize that I do actually. And, you know, it seems like there's so much that I do get to see on YouTube, and there's so much that I don't get to see. And fortunately, it seems like a lot of the stuff that I catch is the right stuff. So I'm really happy about that. So, another thing that has been just very interesting to me is that the FBI had stated that they had not requested the traffic stops that happened in Indiana, except for then the last couple of days, they've come back out stating that they did request the traffic stops. I don't know. I don't know how to make heads and tails of it. Um, it's just a lot. I did look up about the drug testing at the time of arrest, and it seems that that is common procedure, which makes sense. That that the judicial system can do drug testing on people at any point when they're under arrest, but that typically that is something that's done at the arrest. Totally makes sense to me. Um, Sifa says they keep doing that kind of thing. And when you say they keep doing that kind of thing, you mean like the people with a proper interest in such records? Because that really reminded me of one of the first times that I had requested a public record. And I did that in person. I had mentioned that you can do it through email, you can do it over the phone, you can do it in writing, you can also do it in person. And I had been educated from people in the know about how to go about it and what my rights were. And I was really glad that I had been briefed on all that, because when I walked in, the person that I was making the request from asked me, "Are you family?" And I said, "No." And there was a very long, pregnant pause. I think they were expecting me to talk nervously and volunteer some information, but I didn't. So after a while, they said, "Are you news media?" And I said, "No." Another long, pregnant pause. And then they said, "Well, you'll have to pay cash." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "You have to have exact change." And I said, "Okay." And then they said that the fee was priced per page. And I said, "Okay." And then there was another long pause. And I asked, "How many pages is it?" And they said 7. And I asked, "How much is it per page?" And they said 25 cents. And I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm pretty sure that I have change, but if I don't, you can keep the extra quarter." And that was pretty much the extent of the conversation. It was very hostile. It was a very uncomfortable conversation. Thank goodness I had been briefed in my rights. Otherwise, I would have not known how to handle myself. So then they Xerox copied it right there in front of me and gave me my copy and slid me a piece of paper and asked me to sign my name, which I knew that that it was within my rights to not disclose my identity. But I went ahead and I signed my real name and paid my $1.75, and that was pretty much that. It was extremely uncomfortable, and had I not been briefed on my rights, I would have kind of panicked when they asked me if I was family. I would have been like, "Oh my goodness, I'm not. Should I not be here?" So, they were kind of playing on that. And luckily I had good information from people that, like I said, were in the know, and they had briefed me. So that was my first experience. And I want to say the only experience that I have had of doing that in person, it's typically through email. It's also over the phone. Um, I'd say it's best to do it in email because it's best to have a paper trail, especially if they don't respond, which typically they do respond, and they respond quickly because that's how they're supposed to do it. But typically they will deny your request, and they'll say something. I've mentioned this before, to the effect of that your request is too vague, that they want you to be really specific. But whatever it is, it seems to me that they try to give you some back and forth, hoping maybe that you're not going to follow up on the email so that they can keep their records to themselves. And some operations don't document things well because they don't want to share those records. So that's something to look out for too. Mama F says they lie. Yikes. Um, and they're not supposed to. Transparency is the law, right? But they will be misleading. Another way of saying lying. Um, and then Sifa says saying one thing and then saying a different thing. Rhonda R says he seems to have had issues for a while. I watched a video on his social media when he was a teenager. Yeah. Don't we all have issues though? I mean, that just kind of pisses me off, to be quite frank, because we all have our pain and suffering. We all have our issues. We've all had our struggles and our challenges. That does not make most of us serial killers or killers at all. It can be very intimidating when doing Freedom of Information Act requests. Thank you for using that verbiage, Sifa. Very intimidating. Absolutely. And that's what those people were trying to do when I walked into that office and made my first public records request. They were trying to intimidate me with their stony glare, their silence. The thing about the money really cracked me up. They acted like it was going to cost me $1,000 or something, and that I had to pay cash because I said, I have a few dollars on me. I can go to a cash machine if I need to. And $1.75. And lucky for me, I did have quarters with me, so I did not have to give them an extra quarter. Oh my goodness, ridiculous. But I mean, information is power. And a lot of government entities want to keep that information and that power to themselves. And it's really about power to the people. We live in a free country. Dang it. I think the silly burger guy got in posing as the DoorDash, but went out the sliding doors. Yeah, I don't know about that, Alistair Grant. I think that's a good theory, but there will be probably video surveillance to support however it did go down. Also, remember our cell phones, every single one of us and our cell phones are recording us at all times. So we are going to know exactly what words it was that Dylan heard, and we will know the sounds of how things went down. I mean, all of these people had their cell phones, and some of them probably had Apple Watches, and then they might have had things like Alexa or Siri. So yeah, I would think that all of that information is going to be documented very, very accurately. Gregory Worth says, have a feeling there's a lot more to this story as to why the 911 call delayed, not victim blaming DM. Just think that there might have been a cleanup of some sort as to the removal of certain substances. Gregory, that kind of dovetails right into one of the secondary crime scene investigative crews that was getting prints inside the house got a latent footprint outside of her door, right? We've all heard about that. The van's print was right outside of DM's door. And that was from the second crew to go in there and gather these things. So that would lead me to believe that it wasn't there for the first crew to see it, and that it was a latent shoe print is how they worded it, that it was brought to light with something like luminol. And so that definitely would mean that somebody cleaned it up, right? Sifa says, OMG, I wish Kaylee's birth certificate and Trinity's death certificate were only $1 something. It was far from that. Right. I mean, they can kind of charge whatever they want, and really they shouldn't charge anything because it's all covered under taxpayers' dollars anyway. But yeah, sometimes it's several $100s. So it can be really cumbersome financially. And I'm sorry that you've had to pay so much for some of those documents that you've gotten. Rhonda R says, I don't know how he could have done all the stabbings without a blood trail. Didn't they find a footprint though? Right, Rhonda. So the footprint was a latent footprint that was, it sounds like they had to use luminol to get that van's footprint from right outside of Dylan's store. And there are so many mysteries about the whole situation that doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, you would think that it would be a bath of the red stuff. It doesn't make sense. And hey, Pixie Knickers, how are you? When the cop in Indiana stopped, he was pleased to tell the patrolman there was a hostage situation in W. Now, okay, Mama or Mom's AF, Pennsylvania style, is that how you say your name? So the cop in Indiana stopped, and the dad spoke about the SWAT team. Was he speaking about the SWAT team that had happened on the 14th of December, the one that was in Pullman? or was he speaking of a different situation? Because I thought that he was speaking of that situation in Pullman, almost making it sound like that's why they were fleeing Washington. I don't know. Very, very odd. Anyway, let me catch up with the rest of your comments here, your chat. I don't know if he's guilty or not. A knife. Don't have me convinced of anything, and everyone is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. It is from the knife that was used. Yeah, Rhonda, I think you're having some problems typing, so it's hard to read it. I don't know if he's guilty or not. A knife shiv. Don't have me convinced of anything, and everyone is supposed innocent until proven guilty. Don't berm. It is from the knife that was used. I'm going to guess that I don't believe that it's from the knife that was used. And yeah, of course, everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And oh, you don't need to apologize for coming in late. One Way Street. Good to see you here. I'm also in the boat of who may have threatened her. And you were talking about Dylan, I'm imagining. I don't know that she's been threatened. I don't know if you're just speculating that she's been threatened or if there's been information about that. You can turn the listen off of a phone. Supposedly, they are for sure know his shoe size now. Interesting. Yes. And are on the sliding door when he opened it to leave. Yeah. I think the truth was worth the price, though, but I also use the word truth lightly when it's anything coming from them. But it was still something we didn't have that we have now. Absolutely. Dilly Owen says, I totally agree with the lawyer. Dad was more nervous than the son. I thought that from the beginning. Oh, how fascinating is that, Dilly Owens? That is interesting. I mean, a lot of us get nervous with police officers just in general, and when we get pulled over. What I thought was interesting was all the discrepancies in how far apart those two traffic stops were. Initial reports was that it was like 30 minutes apart. I think I heard that on multiple news channels. In watching the videos, it looks like they're 5 hours apart. And then just in the last day or two, it was probably on that 48 hours. They said that they were 10 minutes apart, which was completely not accurate, in my opinion. So yeah, we have to pay attention to the facts and know what we know. Just because it's on the news doesn't mean that it's accurate. I'm pretty sure it was 48 hours that stated that the two traffic stops were 10 minutes apart, and I knew absolutely that that was not accurate. Let's see. I get typing and not pay attention to what I'm typing. Oh, no problem. It still listens even when you turn it off. Exactly. Exactly. And, I have to whisper when I say the name of Alexa because she's probably listening even when I spell it out. I was just watching things on my computer the other day, and I think I mentioned this, that the SWTA, but other way around, was mentioned on Harsh Reality. And she started asking me if I needed a phone call to be made. So I was like, stop it. And then she was asking me what my hobbies were. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, really? Was she just trying to make small talk in case I was having an issue? She was trying to connect with me. And then that just goes right into all the funny business with Lindsay Neiman, right? Unbelievable. So yeah, I just told her to back out and mind her own business. I said to her, there is honor in silence. Then the lawyer, I'm pretty sure, said the same thing about the cover of the knife. He said he could have been there at a Halloween party and left. He was going over what his lawyers could. Yeah, who knows? I mean, who knows? Come up with why it was in the house, right? And Pixie Knicker says, what's up with him throwing trash in the neighbor's trash bins at 4 a.m. at his parents' house? What was he throwing away? And was he gonna burn that car? Fascinating questions. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I thought that was really funny, throwing away trash in a neighbor's bin. First of all, isn't that illegal to throw away trash in somebody else's bin? Because we all pay for our trash pickup, so that's kind of like stealing. But yeah, to put it in a neighbor's bin at 4 in the morning, it doesn't even make sense because a lot of times with trash, they go out to the dump, the trash dump sites to go through trash. So just if it's at a neighbor's house, it's going to be right there with his parents' garbage. So very, very weird, huh? So yeah, I have stated again and again that I believe that the surviving witnesses should be treated with kid gloves and given all of the grace and privacy that any victim would need at a point in time like this. And also to know that their accounts of the information is not going to be 100% reliable because of trauma and PTSD and what that does. And it is extremely curious, the 8 hours or however long the time was that lapsed until 911 was called, and who called 911, and who were these people that came over to the house that were summoned, as it's worded. I know one of them is Hunter, Ethan's brother, one of the triplets. I don't know who the other people were that were summoned. And I would think that those people would be considered witnesses. So, Pixie Knickers, I guess he was daydreaming during his classes. Yeah, not paying attention. You think by then he would have been acting like he was being watched soon, as they said they were looking for that car. Yeah, a lot of his actions don't make sense, but remember, anybody who's going to do what he is accused of doing is going to be completely not well glued together. Absolutely not well glued together. So, you guys, we are already approaching half an hour. And as I keep saying, I want to keep these shorter, but I like doing the chats rather than just doing it without the live chat. So let me make sure that I've included everything I wanted to include here. Um, you know, speak of the devil and the devil shall appear. I really believe in that. And I try really hard to stay positive and not speak of the devil. So sometimes you'll hear me use the word Beetlejuice when I'm speaking of someone whose name I don't want to mention. And for all of you that have seen Beetlejuice, which I think is probably most people, it's a really cute movie and it's just really funny. So, sometimes in referencing criminals, I'll say Beetlejuice. Sometimes in referencing channels that I'm not a fan of, I will say Beetlejuice. So just to know that that's the context when I say that word, it's like just trying to not say that word, basically. You need to ask, why did not take a drive to dump his rubbish and not the neighbors? Yeah, I don't know if he drove to the neighbors because these are larger lots, larger plots of land. And you guys know that where the criminal defendants family lives is actually like a gated community. So, don't just say Beetlejuice. Right. Don't say it 3 times. Exactly. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Sorry that it's such a short one, but I'm trying to shore up my lives. And like I said, I want to keep them live. I really like the structure of doing a morning live and an afternoon live. And just trying to pack in the things that I have in my notes and balancing that with the comments that you guys are putting in chat. Um Moms says he didn't want to put the garbage back in the car. Yeah, it is interesting. You would think he would have cleaned out his car in Washington. Um, it's interesting that he cleaned it out so thoroughly at the home in Pennsylvania. But I mean, and that car was so filthy during the traffic stops. I mean, you can barely get a car any more filthy than that. And that also just kind of puts you into the frame of mind of somebody who might do this sort of criminal activity, that keeping their car reasonably clean is like the last thing on their mind, right? So anyway, you guys, did I already ask you to hit that thumbs up button and to share and subscribe if you feel so inclined? And have a great rest of your Martin Luther King Day. I hope you can get some exercise, get some relaxation, get some really good nutrition. It's so important to eat your fruits and your veggies and high protein and low sugar, low salt, all that good stuff. Be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, and make sure that people treat you with kindness. So take care, and I will see you in the morning. Peace out, and sending you light, sending you love.